Let's begin with an uncomfortable truth. Kindness without sharpness will make you prey in a world built for predators. You were taught to be kind, to stay humble, to be gentle, and you were told that somehow the world would reward you for it. That if you keep doing the right thing, someone out there will notice. That if you keep your heart pure, life will return the favor. But life isn't a fairy tale. And deep down, beneath the politeness and the smiles, you've always sensed it. You've just never had the courage to admit it out loud. How many times have you tried to be the good one, only to be completely overlooked? How many times have you stayed silent just to keep the peace, only to be dismissed or disrespected for it? How many times have you clung to your principles, watching the cunning rise above you effortlessly, shamelessly with a confident smile on their face? The world does not reward goodness, it rewards awareness. And Machiavelli was one of the few bold enough to say it without apology. He didn't write The Prince to teach you how to be moral. He wrote it as a survival manual for those forced to walk among wolves, trying desperately to preserve their soul without losing their life in the process. Machiavelli made it painfully clear: morality without strategy is simply stupidity dressed in a saint's robe. Kindness, when left unguarded, becomes a leash one that others can grab to pull you wherever they want. You are not wrong for being kind, but you are mistaken if you believe that kindness alone earns respect. Because in this world, goodness without limits is little more than an open invitation for exploitation. Ask yourself this: the people you look up to, the ones who've climbed to the top, did they get there by relying only on pure intentions? Or did they rise because they understood the truth of human nature? Because they knew when to speak softly and when to be sharp, and to offer a hand and when to hide a knife behind their back, just in case. Machiavelli never encouraged cruelty. He taught you to stop being naive. He urged you not to wander into a game where you don't even know the rules. Because if you don't know how the game is played, you won't just lose, you'll become a pawn in someone else's strategy. Every time you stay quiet to avoid conflict, every time you give without asking anything in return, every time you tolerate what should never be accepted, you are silently telling the world, I am weak. Use me. But you can stop right now. You can choose not to be shaped by the world, but to start shaping it through intelligence. That's why you're here, not to abandon your kindness, but to transform it into something no one dares to take advantage of. Let's make something clear. The problem isn't that you're good. The real issue is that you haven't learned how to protect your goodness. You walk through life assuming that everyone plays by the same rules, that if you treat people with respect, they will return it, that if you're honest and decent, others will be too.
You believe that kindness is contagious.
But is it? The truth is, the world isn't filled with people who think like you. Filled with opportunists, predators, and polished shoes, manipulators behind soft smiles, people who know exactly how to handle someone like you. Someone generous, someone trusting, someone who can't imagine using others and so can't even recognize when they're being used. You've unknowingly become the ideal target. It's not because you're weak, but because you're transparent, predictable, safe, and Machiavelli warned us of this. He understood, said plainly what many are still too afraid to acknowledge, that human nature, when pushed into a corner, rarely chooses nobility. It chooses calculation. When given the option, people will more often choose advantage over ethics. And unless you accept this reality, unless you see the world for what it is, you'll remain a casualty of your own beautiful ideals. But hear this clearly: this is not a call to become bitter or cynical. It's a call to become intelligent, to refine your kindness until it becomes strategic, precise. You don't have to abandon your values, but you must stop offering them freely on a silver platter, expecting others to honor them simply because you do. You need to learn to observe people deeply, to read between the lines, to notice the motives hidden beneath polished words and pleasant gestures. A smile can be warm, or it can hide a blade. And being loved is not the same as being respected. Don't confuse the two. Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." And you more likely than not have chosen to be loved, to be accepted, to be harmless. But now, pause and ask yourself, what has that truly earned you? Has it brought you admiration? Has it given you influence? Has it made others think twice before they crossed you? Or has it simply taught you again and again that people will take everything you give and vanish the moment you need something in return? Kindness, when it isn't supported by presence, strength, and boundaries, does not inspire loyalty. It inspires entitlement. People don't respect what's always available, what's easy to take, what never says no. And when they don't respect you, they stop listening to you. They stop considering you. They certainly don't protect you. They use you not because they're inherently evil, but because you never taught them how to treat you differently. So if you've been wondering why your good heart keeps getting broken, why your silence leads to disrespect, why your giving never seems to come back full circle, because you've mistaken kindness for a strategy, but it's not a strategy not yet, not until you give it a spine, not until you reinforce it. With awareness, sharpen it with discernment, and power it with strength. Kindness without boundaries is not noble, it's vulnerable. It becomes a tool for others, not a tool for yourself. Machiavelli never told you to stop being good, said you have to stop being blind. And blindness, in this context, isn't about sight, it's about clarity. You didn't just want people to like you, you craved it. You weren't simply looking for love in its truest, rawest form. What you were truly starving for was approval, acceptance, that quiet but powerful nod from the world that whispers, "You're good. You belong." And to get it, you taught yourself to survive by pleasing, by shrinking, by softening every edge of your personality until nothing sharp remained, all just to avoid rejection. And over time, that survival tactic morphed into your entire identity. You became the peacemaker, the agreeable one, the man who kept his thoughts polite, his tone soft, and his presence predictable. You convinced yourself that this was kindness, but the truth, it wasn't kindness, it was camouflage. And camouflage doesn't earn you presence. It erases you because here's the brutal truth Machiavelli would whisper in your ear when no one else will. The world is not ruled by the lovable. It is ruled by the unreadable, by those who refuse to make themselves fully known, who hold enough mystery to command. Caution. When you crave to be liked above all else, you become soft in places that demand steel. You compromise when you should stand firm. You offer second chances when silence would have spoken louder than any word. And little by little, the world stops. Seeing you as a man to remember, it sees you as a man to use. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose." And this wasn't an invitation to cruelty. It was an observation of human nature, as it really is not as we wish it to be. People follow those they can't fully predict. They're drawn to leaders who don't lay their entire soul on the table, not to those who hand over their essence for free. When you lead with your need to be liked, you send a signal, a silent broadcast that you are willing to be shaped, bent, and twisted just to remain in favor. You show people exactly which buttons to press, exactly how far they can go, how deeply they can dig. And the worst part, you convince them that your kindness has no limits, that they can step over you, disrespect you. You'll still come back because your approval-seeking heart needs their validation more than it needs your dignity. But approval, as comforting as it seems, is a prison built with compliments, and locked tight with self-doubt. And the more you chase it, the further you drift from the man you were meant to become. Because here's what no one tells you. Being liked is cheap. It costs you nothing. Anyone can like you. But being respected, that's a different currency. That's earned. That demands you set boundaries. That demands you grow a backbone. That demands you're willing to walk away from any room that requires. Your silence is the price of being loved. So look at your life. Really look. Look at the places where you've given too much, where you've stayed far too long, where you've tolerated quietly hoping things would change, and ask yourself, was it kindness? Or was it fear? Because if you don't face that truth now, you'll keep reliving the same lesson. You'll keep smiling through disrespect, keep apologizing for your needs, keep hoping that one day someone will see your worth without you having to roar. Keep waiting for the moment when the world will pause and recognize your quiet strength, your unwavering loyalty, your unshakable honesty. But the truth is, they won't. Not until you become the kind of man who doesn't need to be liked. Until you evolve into the kind of man who can carry kindness in one hand and still inspire fear with the other. That is the paradox they never taught you. From a young age, you were told the same comforting lie, that if you were good, if you were loyal, patient, honest, life would eventually hand you the crown. That somehow, without pushing, without posturing, without playing the game, the world would bend in your favor. But what they didn't tell you is this: the world isn't watching you for your virtue. And if it is watching, it's not cheering. It's measuring, calculating your usefulness, weighing your leverage. Because the world, as Machiavelli saw with ruthless clarity, doesn't move according to goodness. It moves according to leverage. Power isn't based on your intention. It's based on what you can control. That's the hard truth so few are willing to say aloud. So let me ask you, where exactly has your decency taken you? How many times have you made the right choice only to watch someone more cunning, more calculated, more aware of the terrain rise above you effortlessly? It stings. It cuts deep. Because there's still a part of you that clings to the myth that good guys finish first. That truth always finds its way to the top. But if you've been alive long enough, you know that's not how the world actually works. Because this world doesn't reward men who are morally good. It rewards men who are strategically good, men who can transform their presence into power, men who know exactly when to speak and when to disappear, men who understand the brutal truth that appearance often outweighs authenticity. Machiavelli warned, it is not necessary to have all the virtues, but it is necessary to appear to have them. Because image shapes perception, and perception, it shapes power. You may be the wisest, the most principled man in the room, but if you can't control how others perceive you, your wisdom will be ignored. If you appear soft when the moment calls for steel, if you seem desperate when detachment would serve you better, your influence slips through your fingers. The manipulator thrives not because he is right, but because he looks confident. The fool wins not because he knows, but because he sounds certain. Meanwhile, the virtuous man waits, silently, hoping that someone, anyone, will one day notice what he brings. But the world rarely notices what doesn't demand its attention. That's why Machiavelli didn't just teach survival, taught performance, the art of designing an image that speaks before you do, the discipline to move with intention, not impulse, and above all, the courage to release the delusion that people are fair because the majority are not. They're emotional, reactive, attracted not to purity but to presence, to mystery, to strength, to dominance. So if you want to stop being overlooked, if you want to stop blending into the background while others with half your substance rise, you must stop hoping your goodness will be enough. It's not. You must become the kind of man whose silence holds weight, whose words are rare but sharp, whose presence makes people sit straighter, speak softer, pay attention without being told. Because in the end, it's not morality that governs the world. It's mastery. Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched someone far less competent than you get ahead of you simply because they looked the part? Not because they were smarter, not because they worked harder, but because they mastered the art of presence. They understood something most never do: how you appear often matters more than who you are. And that's where so many people lose the game before it even begins. They step onto the field believing that truth alone is enough, that excellence will eventually speak loud enough to be heard, that their integrity, their quiet effort, will one day shine through. But Machiavelli knew better, said, it is not necessary to have all the virtues, but to appear to have them. That's not. Deception, that's strategy, and that distinction changes everything. Because in the eyes of the world, you are not what you are what you seem to be. People don't see your long nights, your private discipline, your unspoken values. They see your shoulders, your eye contact, your voice, your energy. They see your posture. They hear your tone. They scan your confidence or your hesitation. And with shocking speed, they make decisions about who you are. If you appear uncertain, they will treat you as uncertain. If you come across as passive, they will pass over you. If you seem soft, they will test your edges. It won't matter how pure your intentions are or how sharp your capabilities have become behind closed doors. Because power isn't just about what's inside, it's about how effectively you translate that power into the room. The hard truth. People follow what they perceive as authority, even when that authority is hollow, even when it's a mask. That's why the loudest, most confident fool often captures more attention than the quiet, capable man in the corner. Not because he's better, but because he understands the one lesson most good men never learn. You must master the narrative of yourself. You must learn to curate your presence like a king curates his image, not to win applause, but to command respect. Not to manipulate, but to set the terms of how others will engage with you. Because if you don't define your worth, they will. And let's be honest, when people define your value for you, they almost always undervalue it. This isn't about pretending, it's not about putting on a show, but it is about presenting. Because power isn't only something you hold, it's something you project. Respect isn't just something you earn, something you signal. So stop hoping that one day people will finally notice. Stop waiting for someone to hand you the recognition you deserve. Start showing it intentionally. Start stepping into rooms with posture, with stillness, with direction. Machiavelli wasn't encouraging arrogance. He wasn't teaching deceit. He was delivering a truth that polite society tries so hard to deny, that appearances govern perception, and perception shapes reality. This isn't about becoming fake. It's about becoming undeniable. Power doesn't always shout. In fact, the strongest people in the room often say the least. God, because every word you speak can be used against you. But what you withhold, that creates mystique that builds an invisible edge. And mystery, as Machiavelli understood, is not weakness, it's control. He wrote, "A prince must know how to conceal his intentions. Not because deception is virtuous, but because in the wrong hands, transparency is suicide." Most people believe that speaking up gives them power. It's that saying everything on their mind will win them respect. But in truth, it often hands others the map to your mind. Once they can predict your next move, your values, your emotions, they gain leverage. And when you're predictable, you're no longer dangerous. You're manageable, easy to handle. Strategic silence isn't about pretending to be something you're not. It's about preserving your advantage. It's about having the discipline to know what to reveal in, just as importantly, what to keep buried. Think about it. How many times have you over-explained yourself, trying so hard to be understood, only to walk away feeling misinterpreted or worse, completely dismissed? How many times have you trusted too quickly, opened up too much, shared more than you should have, only to watch that very information get used against you later? That's not honesty. That's poor self-defense. In a world teeming with watchers and opportunists, those who manage the flow of information hold the upper hand. The less others know about you, the more they're forced to respect the unknown. They hesitate, they wonder, they tread carefully. In hesitation, that moment of uncertainty is power. You don't owe the world your thoughts. You don't owe clarity or explanations to those who haven't earned your truth. Not everyone deserves access. Every word you choose to speak should carry weight. Every sentence should feel deliberate, measured, intentional, because when you speak less, people instinctively lean in, they focus. They replay your words in their minds, trying to extract meaning from your pauses, searching between the lines. That's what influence looks like. The man who speaks endlessly becomes background noise, cheap, forgettable, easy to replace. But the man who masters silence, who lets stillness do the talking, who can pause and watch the room shift around, that man holds presence. Strategic silence is not weakness. It's a form of power, the armor of those who refuse to let others read them too easily. It's a shield for those who understand the strength and restraint. So stop filling every space with noise. Stop handing out the full map of who you are. Leave gaps. Create mystery. Let people guess. Let them sit in the discomfort of not knowing. Because when no one knows exactly what you think, no one can predict your next move. And when they can't predict you, they can't control you. That's the kind of power few dare to challenge. If people can predict you, they can control you. It really is that simple. Machiavelli didn't just study power, he studied fear. And what he discovered, history has proven time and time again, predictable men are disposable. But the unpredictable, they are dangerous. You see, when people know exactly how you'll react, they can build their strategy around you. They can manipulate your emotions, bait your reactions, trap you in your own habits. You become a puppet tugged by invisible strings. Not because they're more intelligent, but because you've made yourself easy to read. Back how? Many times have you responded the same way to rejection, to pressure, to disrespect, to conflict? And think about how easily others have exploited that pattern because they could rely on you to be safe, to be soft, to be afraid of disruption. But here's where it all shifts. The moment you become unpredictable, the power dynamic flips. Suddenly, they don't know if you'll stay or walk away. They can't tell if you'll respond with forgiveness or silence, calm or cold indifference. And that uncertainty, that psychological tension creates distance. It creates respect. Carves out space for you to operate entirely on your own terms. Because let's be honest, people, don't fear the cruel. They fear the unreadable, the ones they can't pin down, the ones who smile but give nothing away, the ones who say less but mean more, the ones who don't react in the expected way, who hold their cards close to their chest while everyone else plays theirs openly, the one who can go quiet and leave them guessing. It's the one who commands the room without saying a word. Unpredictability isn't recklessness. It's a form of precision, a calculated mystery, strategy that keeps just enough of yourself concealed so that no one is ever fully certain where you stand. And when they can't predict your next move, they can't prepare for it. When they can't prepare for it, they hesitate. And he who makes others hesitate, even for a moment, gains control of the game. So break your patterns. Refuse to be boxed in by your past behavior. Say no when they anticipate yes. Walk away when they expect you to stay. Stay silent when the world demands a reaction. Because your unpredictability is not confusion, it is control. It is a weapon. It is a shield. And sometimes, it is the only thing keeping you from being swallowed whole by those who would use your consistency against you. Machiavelli didn't instruct you to become chaotic. He urged you to become untouchable. And that state of being untouchable begins the moment you step out of the frame of predictability. Let me share with you one of the most misunderstood truths about power. Respect is not built by being constantly present. Respect is built when your absence makes people feel your impact. We've been taught that showing up at every opportunity, always replying, always giving, always being available, that this somehow proves our worth. But Machiavelli warned against this illusion. He understood that too much familiarity doesn't build connection. It dilutes respect. And scarcity, even in moderation, increases value. If you're always there, always answering, always visible and eager, your presence slowly becomes expected. And what's expected? It's rarely appreciated. See it in personal relationships, in careers, in every kind of human dynamic. The one who overextends, who overdelivers, who never pulls back, they're often the ones most quickly forgotten. Not because they lacked value, but because they never withheld enough to make their value felt. Machiavelli taught that a true leader must never become too familiar, not out of arrogance, but out of wisdom. Because the more they see you, the more they think they've figured you out. Once they think they know you, they stop respecting the boundaries you set. But when you retreat strategically, when you become just a little less reachable, when you're not the first to reply, not the one who always shows up, not the one who constantly initiates something shifts in their perception, they begin to notice the silence. They begin to feel the weight of your absence. They start to wonder what changed. And in that quiet questioning, you rise in their minds. Your time becomes a rare commodity. Your words carry more weight. Your attention feels heavier. Because now, your presence isn't tainted, casual. It's intentional. Look around. The most powerful figures throughout history were never those who showed up to every debate, every event, every conflict without thought. They chose their moments carefully, deliberately, and in doing so, They made the world wait for their voice. When they finally spoke, the world listened, not because they shouted louder, but because their words carried weight. That is the essence of strategic distance. It's not about isolation or withdrawal. It's about elevation. Because when you are always visible, you become vulnerable. But when you master your exposure, when you decide exactly when and how people experience you, you no longer have to beg for respect. Instead, you command it effortlessly. So stop fearing absence. Stop worrying you'll be forgotten if you pull back. If the only reason people remember you is because you're always available, then you were never truly respected to begin with. Those who leave lasting impact aren't the ones who scream the loudest or flood every conversation. They are the ones who arrive like thunder, rare, intentional, and utterly unforgettable. Now let's shift to one of the most underestimated forms of power: emotional control. Society tells you to express yourself freely, to always speak your truth, to let your emotions out. But the harsh reality is that every reaction you give opens a window into your weaknesses. And those who seek power, they're always watching, listening, taking mental notes. Because the moment you lose your temper, you lose the upper hand. Machiavelli didn't just teach strategy, he taught restraint. He believed that a ruler must act with calculation, not passion, not impulse. Because a man who cannot control his emotions can never control outcomes. Think back to the last time you snapped. The last time someone provoked you and you responded in anger, fear, or desperation. Who had the power in that moment? It wasn't you. It was the person who triggered your reaction. It's the one who knocked you off balance, pulling invisible strings. Without ever raising their voice, that's exactly what emotional control protects you from. It shields your image, your position, your influence. Because the person who remains centered when everyone else loses their composure becomes the one everyone watches. Why? Because calm and chaos looks like leadership. And leadership commands respect whether in negotiations or conflict. The one who can stay silent when provoked, still when insulted, unshaken when challenged, that's the one who cannot be manipulated. Machiavelli wasn't telling you not to feel. He was telling you not to bleed in front of those who would use your wounds against you. Your emotions are sacred, deeply personal, but your reactions, they are a public display, a signal of where you are still vulnerable. So start paying close attention to the rise in your chest, the heat creeping into your face, the tightening of your voice when your pride is hurt. Because if they can touch those nerves, they can control your next move. But if they can't, lose all leverage. Mastering your emotions doesn't make you cold or detached. It makes you dangerous. It means you can see clearly when others are blinded by rage. It means you make decisions from strength, not from ego, not from fear. It means your presence brings gravity, not noise. The next time someone tries to provoke you, pause, breathe, smile if you must. But never give them the satisfaction of watching you fall out of your center. Because in the end, it's not the loudest voice that wins. It's the calmest mind. It's the one that doesn't flinch, the one that doesn't react. It's the one who quietly owns the storm while everyone else drowns in it. Power doesn't always belong to the one who moves first. It belongs to the one who moves best. In a world addicted to speed, everyone wants results now. They rush, they react, they move out of fear that if they wait, they'll lose something. But Machiavelli understood a deeper truth. The true strategist doesn't chase. He waits. He studies. He watches. He lets others reveal themselves because he knows the first strike isn't the most important, the precise strike is. Think of a hunter. He doesn't fire at the first sound in the woods. Waits until the prey is in perfect range. One shot, one decision, one move that changes everything. That's what strategic patience gives you. It gives you leverage, gives you clarity. It gives you the invaluable time to see the full board before you make your move. The average person reacts out of urgency. But the man who can sit in the tension, who can hold his fire, who can let the moment build, is the man everyone fears. Because his silence is not weakness, it's calculation. His stillness is not indecision, it's preparation, Machiavelli said. Fortune favors those who know how to adapt, And adaptation requires one skill above all: timing. You don't need to speak first. You don't need to defend yourself instantly. You don't need to act just to prove you're doing something. You need to wait until the chaos settles, until the noise clears, until the opportunity becomes undeniable. And when that moment comes, you don't hesitate. You move with precision, with purpose, with presence. That's how you break through. That's how you win without shouting. That's how you dominate without rushing. Because true influence isn't about constant motion. It's about decisive impact. So I ask you, will you keep acting on impulse like the rest? Or will you train yourself to wait, to see, to know when your moment is near and strike in a way that no one saw coming? Because power does not belong to the loud. It belongs to the disciplined, to the intentional, to the one who knows that timing is everything. Now you know. You understand why kindness alone was never enough. Why being liked never earned you power. You weren't weak. You were just unarmed. No one ever taught you that silence could be strength, that distance could create desire, that unpredictability could be far more feared than confrontation itself. That image isn't vanity. It's leverage reel, potent leverage. It's the understanding that emotions, when left unchecked, can become your own chains, holding you captive. And that timing is power. But now, you've seen the full map. The question isn't whether you understand these truths. The real, harder question is, are you willing to become the anomaly? Because if you slip back into playing the old game-chasing approval, over-explaining yourself, reacting impulsively to every move, you will inevitably drown in a system that's designed to devour the obedient. This world was never made to reward virtue. It rewards those who know how to move unseen, who carry stillness like a weapon, who make their presence rare, their thoughts unreadable, their choices deliberate and calculated. Stop being easy to understand. Stop being easy to reach.
Stop.
Being easy to control? You are no longer here just to prove that you're a good person. You are here to live with intelligence. It's clarity with undeniable power. Let others keep chasing noise. Let others drown in their desperate need for approval. But you move differently now. Because from this moment forward, you are not merely in the game, you understand the game. More than that, you know how to bend it to your favor. So tell me, which principle will you apply first? Which behavior ends today? Which part of you will no longer be used, manipulated, or controlled by others? Comment below. I'm reading every word, because this isn't just a monologue, it's a movement. And if this message cut deep, if it shook something inside you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, not because I asked, but because now you see the world differently, and that vision deserves to grow stronger, sharper, unstoppable.